July bass fishing, it can be tough. A lot of high pressure out there. There are a ton of boats. People are hammering all the good spots. Heck, before you get to your favorite spot that morning, you might have been hammered by 2 or 3 other anglers already. You're dealing with really warm water, and because of that, you're only gonna find me fishing primarily with 3 different lures in July that consistently produce bass for me. Now let's start off with what I believe is one of the most underrated lures out there, which is the swim jig. This guy right here caught me my biggest bass in June, and I hope it's going to do the same thing in July. Swim jigs are specifically designed really to move through the water column with ease, right? It's featuring a lighter weed guard. There might be only like 6 or 7 pieces of plastic here. It's got a bullet-shaped head right here to minimize the resistance in the water. You also have a thinner wire gauge, right? This is really essential because often when the bass strikes swim jigs, they are doing so in motion. And so the reason you want a thinner wire on your swim jigs is because they're gonna hit it in motion, right? And so just like a chatterbait or a bladed jig, you want to be able to penetrate past the barb on that swift hook set. Typically swim jigs range to about 1/2 ounce in weight. And to maximize their effectiveness, there are really 2 types of trailers I would put on the swim jig. So I would either put some type of paddle tail on right here. You can put a Kayak on. This is, I believe, a Biospawn. Give me 1 second, let me go find it. I was correct. This is a Biospawn Exo Swim 4, if you really like that color, which I do, and it kind of matches the swim jig skirt very nicely. So the Exo Swim 4, I will throw that in the description below. Or I would also put on a swim jig some type of crawl. I like the Missile D-Bombs, split beaver tail style. It's gonna flutter very nicely, and it just elicits strikes. And this is the Missile D-Bomb. These are the flaps that I love. You can kind of see, I was getting bit with this last night. It looks like they took part of the tail. So it's exactly what you want to see on baits like this. These, for whatever reason, is one of my favorite trailers to use. It just gets eaten, folks. Love it. All right, the second jig that slays for me is this guy right here. It's a football head jig, and it has I think a big Joshy. This is called a paddle crawl. It's a mix like of a paddle tail and a crawdad had a baby. This is kind of what you get. But these things absolutely slay and are excellent for fishing rocky bottom areas due to their kind of unique head design. It really reduces the likelihood of snagging and allows this jig to move smoothly up over rocks as it goes over. Any other type of jig through rocks, it's gonna get stuck in the rocks, and it's gonna be really frustrating. But the design and where the placement of this eye is, this is gonna go up and over rocks and kind of bounce it in between. And man, this thing just gets bit. These jigs, I mean, I got a ton of them over here. They come in different weights. This one's tungsten. I believe this is a 3/8 ounce, but the weights range in between 3/8 ounce and 1 ounce. They have a moderate weed guard. You can kind of see here, it's not super crazy. Typically, these are going to be paired with some type of crawl trailer to kind of mimic that natural prey, kind of bouncing through the rocks on the bottom. The football jig's design is particularly effective for maintaining contact with the bottom, right? And so it's going to provide a stable, upright presentation that really appeals to the bass feeding on crayfish. So for me, if I ever see a riprap or a dam ledge that's at a steep angle, a lot of anglers will reach for this square bill crankbait. I am first reaching for my 3/8 ounce football head jig, casting it to shore and popping it down the underwater embankment. When you feel that like double tug, it's almost like a ping ping. Enjoy that freaking hook set and that monster of a bass you're gonna pick up with the football head jig. And the third jig I use is these guys right here. This is a finesse jig. This is a Kayak spin jig. I believe it's called the Mono. It's a 3/32 ounce jig. And finesse jigs are really ideal for conditions involving smaller fish, right? Heavy angler pressure, cold water. These are generally lighter, right? These are ranging between 3/16 to 1/4 ounce and really feature the spider cut skirt and a really light wire hook. The heads are usually ball-shaped or kind of compact, which aids really kind of in these delicate presentations. And you want to pair these finesse jigs with small crawl or some type of creature bait. And man, when you do that, these can be incredibly effective. So if you're throwing out the meal and they don't want the meal and you come up short, you may want to size down to finesse jig to see if they want something smaller. These are really great for clear water presentations, great for cold water, great for when bass don't want larger presentations. And I particularly like fishing these in shallow water presentations where I know any type of bigger, larger presentation is going to make a splash. It's going to spook those fish. These things are going to drop in nice and silent, and man, the bass are going to smash it. All right, let's move on to lure number 2 for July. All right, so this is a lure that I've talked about in a variety of other videos. However, for July, I have it hooked up. That's this guy, the 3.5 Yamatanuki by Yamamoto baits. I love 3 different colors in this. This is going to be your green pumpkin black fleck, my personal favorite. We also have, if you have muddier waters, I have the black and blue. This one's sick. Also, I like fishing in rivers as well for smallmouth from time to time, and that's why I have the watermelon red and black fleck. These things just absolutely slay. This is a hot lure in Japan right now. They actually make these in a 2.5 inch as well. So if you're hooking up the 3.5 incher, you're gonna need a 5/0 EWG hook. If you're hooking up the 2.5 incher, you're gonna need a 1/0 hook. And how you hook this up is really easy. You just basically take your hook, you're gonna rig this to the top, come out the bottom, and go up around the offset bend, flip that around, and then you're gonna line where the hook comes up, and it is gonna sit nicely in that slit in the other side. So when the bass hits it, this is a heavy plastic, it's gonna depress the heavy plastic, expose that hook, and you're gonna pin that bass. All right, I wanna show you a hack that a subscriber kind of shared with me, which I thought was brilliant. Because a lot of times, if you start hooking these up, right, through here, you'll hit the bass, this will rip out, and then eventually you'll have it'll be split and this bait's kind of done. However, to prolong the Yamatanuki, what you can do, and this is brilliant, like I said, I didn't come up with this, is get one of these tools. I'll throw the link in the description. And you're gonna put an O-ring, and then take that O-ring, put it on top of your Yamatanuki, just like that. And when you run your hook through it, sits like that, and this thing will last for a very long time because you have that extra support of that O-ring on the top of your Yamatanuki. Still has the great flutter fall, and the beauty of it, it's gonna save you a lot of money because these guys right here, they're $1.25 each when you buy them in the pack. So get yourself some O-rings, get yourself this tool. I believe it's by Arsenal, and you can set this up and you are gonna get a lot more yardage out of your Yamatanuki. An incredibly versatile bait. You can fish it 6 different ways. One, you could skip it. This thing skips really well, like skipping it under those trees that are overhanging over the water. And the thing has a nice flutter fall. It kind of does this going to the bottom. If you don't get a hit on the fall, you can just pop it off the bottom. A lot of times that will entice that bass to strike. So I also like fishing this on steep structure. So if you can see on your electronics, you have an underwater ledge. I like to start this at the top and kind of pop it out and it flutters down. Pop it out and it flutters down. A lot of times those bass that are suspended on that ledge will nail the Yamatanuki. All right, another way I love fishing this, I actually like casting it on shore and then kind of pulling it out. So a lot of times when you throw a heavy plastic like this in shallow water, it's gonna spook those bass. So if you hit the shore first and then pop it out, it looks like something that is more natural and you're not gonna spook those bass, and you're gonna get that bite. Another way, and this is kind of crazy, I will actually pull this out and throw it on top of lily pads and this thing goes crazy. As it's kicking through the lily pads like this tail is going wild. And whenever I hit a hole, I'll let that stop and it'll start doing sinking action. A lot of times in those holes where this thing will get bit. I also kind of treat these like jigs, right? I'll throw them in heavy cover. I'll let those kind of flutter down. Since it is a weedless presentation, I don't get hooked up a whole lot, and boom, I will get those bass to hit it. All right, the 6th way, keep in mind that after you do all those things and you're reeling it back to shore, this tail is going wild. It looks like a fleeting bait fish. In this particular case, looked like a bluegill trying to get away. And so what I like to do is if I'm done kind of doing the pop deal or whatever is the fishing structure, I'll reel, pause. And a lot of times if you have a chaser, that thing's gonna stop and all that bass is gonna do is open its mouth and slam it. I've caught a lot of nice bass that way. All right, the 3rd lure I have for you, and if you're not fishing this bad boy in July, I don't know what you're doing with your life. This is a green pumpkin wacky rig Senko. This guy right here, it's just an absolute bass slayer. I don't care. People clown on me all the time. It catches so many freaking bass with me. I tell people I would fish a freaking baked potato if it caught as many bass as the wacky rig Senko. Let me show you how I rig it up, and let me show you what I fish it on. First, let me show you my setup. I got a Hypermag reel. This thing's awesome. I did a review on that. I'll throw that in the description below. I also have my Impulse 7-foot medium power fast action finesse rod, and I'm throwing it on 8-pound Seaguar and VizX line, and I got some trapper hooks on here as well. So that's my setup. Now, how to fish it. So all you do is take your 5-inch worm. I actually recommend the Yamamoto Senko's green pumpkin black fleck. I buy them a lot of times in 100 packs because they're so effective. There's other worms out there, but those Yamamoto's, the flutter on the fall, it's actually noticeable. I know there's guys out there who tell you It's not noticeable. I'm telling you, it's noticeable. And that's the reason they fetch the price that they do. The hook size, you'll get a bunch of opinions on this, but over the years, I dialed it down to kind of a 1/aught, potentially 2/aught. I'll use the octopus hooks from Gamakatsu. I'm using the trapper hooks. These things are super sticky sharp. Don't buy cheap hooks, right? Buy some sticky sharp hooks. I've bought cheap hooks in the past. They've bent out, or they get dull after the first strike. So I don't mess around. I buy high quality hooks, and hopefully you will too, so you don't learn that unfortunate lesson on that bass of a lifetime. Simply stick the worm, and I really like, as you can see, like going right to the inside of the tail end right here, and looks like I've done that a bit. Hook that in, and boom. There you go. Now, there's a few things to take into consideration when fishing the wacky worm. Technique is everything, I believe, when it comes to wacky worm. It's a weightless presentation. I use it as a target strategy, right? So when I throw this out, really what I'm looking for is entice those bass that are anywhere within like 8 feet of where this thing lands. I will skip it. So by skipping it, really, you're getting it to places where other anglers simply can't get it to, and you'll get a lot of bites doing that. When I throw this out, I'll let it sink on the drop. That's when it's going to do this flutter to the bottom. And a lot of times when it hits the bottom, I'll do a pop, pop. And I'll usually, I'll wait 4 to 5 seconds on the fall, and then I'll do tug, tug, pause. And this thing's like butter flying through the water. Tug, tug, pause, and as it sinks. Usually, 95% of the time, the bass are gonna smash it on that pause. All right, so I've thrown this lure tens of thousands of times. And I have found that if you don't get a bass in the first 5 tugs and pauses, I reel it in, I target another strategy, you're really gonna increase your chances of catching more bass that way. I'm not saying you will never catch a bass after 5 tugs and pauses. I'm just telling you, the chances significantly go down after 5 tugs. So choose another location, you're gonna increase your chances of catching more bass simply by the odds. This lure just works. In fact, I was using it in a tournament last year and was skipping docks down at Gunnersville and was able to land 1, my personal best, and 2, one of the biggest bass on the team to help us secure a $10,000 win and the Knucklehead Bass Fishing Series trophy. It's stupid. I know it. It just slays bass. So if you're one of those guys, you're always planning the next month and you're constantly buying baits and you're kind of planning the weeks ahead, or maybe you have a trip coming up in August. I did a video last year with Fishing with Gramps and his brother, Jeremy Hickman. It's called 17 Tips How to Catch Big Bass in August. You can check out that video right there. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see ya.